The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Those who are sharing, commenting, and liking, my old and new and returning subscribers, I say thank you so much. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' speech at African Union. According to Antonio, Africans are still suffering from colonialism, and there is a wave of total freedom, and this wave is echoing louder everywhere. And when you look at the theme of the African Union for this year, they are also talking about the same thing. Africans are looking for freedom, and they have also realized that the world has not been just towards the African. And according to him, he will do everything possible to help us get the permanent seat that Africa deserves, because we deserve it. But he never talked about the veto power. We know that even the United States of America agreed that Africa should have 2 permanent seats in the UN Security Council, because we can't have this large number of population and we wouldn't have people that would be representing this number of people. It is unlawful. That is injustice. But we are not looking for the 2 permanent seats. We are looking for a veto power as well. The United States of America, the one who spoke for the United States of America, said, if we are giving veto power, if Africa is given a veto power, it will make the council dysfunctional. And I don't see the reason to which we can be given permanent seats without making the council dysfunctional. But when we are given a veto power, the council becomes dysfunctional. So we are looking for a veto power as well, because we can't have this large number and only have a seat without a veto power. We are not willing to have the seat. We have numbers that need to be heard. We also deserve that our voices should be heard worldwide. We can't continue to be passengers. He also talked about how they are going to help stop the war in Somalia and in DR Congo, because they will do everything possible to stop those doing the funding. And that for decades, we have never known peace in DR.
Viewers, look no further than the United Nations Security Council. There is no excuse that Africa still lacks permanent representation in the 21st century. I will keep working with the African Union and all member states to ensure the representation Africa needs and the justice you deserve, including with 2 permanent members of the Security Council. And we will keep pressing together for an international financial architecture that is no longer outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair. Correcting age-old injustices is essential to address here and now challenges. And the good news is that we have many of the solutions we need. Last year, you helped drive that effort at the United Nations with the Pact for the Future. And I thank Africa for its support that was vital to approve the Pact. Our task now is to make those commitments a reality. South Africa's G20 chairmanship could not come at a better time. Let me point to 4 areas for action. First, we must push for peace, security, and alleviating appalling levels of human suffering. Sudan is being torn apart before our eyes and is now home to the world's largest displacement crisis and famine. As we near the holy months of Ramadan, it is time for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And the international community must come together to stop the flow of weapons and the bankrolling of bloodshed. In the Democratic Republic of the Congolese people have been suffering yet again from a brutal cycle of violence. And the fighting that is raging in South Kivu as a result of the continuation of the M23 offensive, threatens to push the entire region over the precipice. Region must be avoided at all costs. There is no military solution. The deadlock must end, the dialogue must begin, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the DRC must be respected. The conclusions of the recent joint EAC-SADC summit offer a way forward, with a renewed call for an immediate ceasefire and new momentum for regional efforts based on the Luanda and Nairobi processes. Now is the time for swift implementation. And you can count on the continued support of the United Nations, including MONUSCO. In the Sahel, the clear and present threat of terrorism is undermining peace, security, and sustainable development. And in Somalia, we are urging predictable funding for the African Union support and stabilization mission, and I hope that our voice will be heard by the Security Council. And as we gather here in Africa, I know all our minds are also very much on Gaza. A resumption of hostilities must be avoided at all costs. The Palestinian people have suffered too much. I welcome efforts by the parties to abide by the ceasefire agreement and urge action for a permanent ceasefire and the release of all hostages. Peace is possible in the Middle East, and that starts with tangible, irreversible, and permanent progress towards the two-state solution, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. Excellencies, on all fronts, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the African Union to advance security, stability, human rights, and rule of law. Excellencies, second, we must keep working together to deliver the AU 2063 agenda and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and drive action on finance. African countries pay up to 8 times more to borrow than developed countries, and 20 are in or at risk of debt distress. The Pact for the Future supports an international financial architecture reform to reflect today's economy, ensuring fair representation and urging effective action on debt relief. And I will stand with Africa as a matter of justice and to right the historic wrongs. Excellencies, third, the climate crisis. Climate disasters are tearing across Africa, destroying lives, upending livelihoods, devastating economies, and inflaming conflict. At the same time, the renewables revolution is unstoppable, and Africa is poised to become a global clean energy powerhouse. Yet, today, Africa receives just 2% of global renewables investment. Realizing Africa's potential requires access to affordable finance, including by implementing the COP29 finance decision fully and on time, and supporting development of a roadmap to realize $1.3 trillion a year. Excellencies, Africa has contributed little to the climate crisis, yet is paying the price with record droughts, floods, and heat. Climate justice requires a massive investment in adaptation, with the international community bearing an enormous responsibility. Developed countries must double adaptation finance, and countries must significantly boost the loss and damage fund. Allow me a note. When the Loss and Damage Fund was created, the pledging conference that took place has allowed for an amount that is equivalent at the highest contract for a basketball player in the United States. It is absolutely necessary to make the Loss and Damage Fund an effective instrument to support developing countries in adaptation. And we also need justice when it comes to your abundant critical minerals. Too often, your countries are plundered, bound to the bottom of value chains as others grow rich on your resources. The work of the United Nations panel on critical energy transition minerals is designed to help embed justice, sustainability, and human rights across the value chain. Africa's minerals must benefit Africa's people.
This has been too long. It's supposed to be stopped by now because UN troops are present in Congo. For decades, we have not known peace. We are looking for peace and justice for the African because we also deserve and we are also humans and our lives matter. The man talked about a whole lot of issues, but we are hoping to see that what he said will not be speech, because always we've seen the promises they make to Africa, yet they never become fruitful. We are tired of the oppression. We are tired of the second-class treatment. We want our recognition. We know that colonization has really affected the African, but we have to move past that. Freedom, you have to fight for freedom. Nobody will give us the freedom on a silver platter. We have to be ready as a people to fight for the freedom that we deserve and the freedom that we are looking for. That is why Captain Ibrahim Traore, Assimi Goïta, and Abdurrahman Chiani have taken it upon themselves to fight for freedom. Because what we have is a guise in freedom. We do not have freedom and we are not free. So freedom, we should be willing to sacrifice everything to get the freedom that we need. Nobody will give the African the freedom that we want. We should be ready to fight for it. We should be ready to fight for our right. We should be ready to fight for everything that we want. Nobody will allow you to have it just by sitting and talking, just by always meeting and having plans. That wouldn't give us the freedom that we want. Until then, we'll continue to be doing the talking every blessed day. So let's keep fighting. Let's keep on fighting for a better Africa. We will not stop until we are given the freedom that we deserve. We have to all unite together under one umbrella, support the leaders that are doing everything possible, that are risking their lives to give us the freedom that we are looking for. And the African leader, you must not always sit down to give a speech. You should take steps in making this a realization. If you sit under the guise of the political independence, Africa will never go anywhere. Africa will continue to be where it is, because we have seen that they're talking for decades haven't given us the results that we are looking for. So we need actions. That is the only way that we can safeguard our motherland and set ourselves free from colonialism. This thing isn't over. It is only over on paper, but we are still suffering under colonization because we can never sit to decide what we want. People still sit somewhere and have a say on the African affairs. People still sit somewhere and decide what should happen. Look at what is happening in DR Congo. As he said, there are people who are funding these wars that are ongoing. If we are truly independent, somebody wouldn't move from wherever into the African continent to help others fight. And the more we are fighting, the more they are carrying the natural resources away. So we have to also come up with a new tactics, a new way of doing things, so that we'll set the continent free. And the freedom, everybody must champion that freedom. We want to be totally free. We can take care of our own affairs. We were able to take care of our affairs before they came in contact with us. It's the same way that we can still be able to take care of our own affairs. So let's rise up and fight till the end. Until we win, we are not backing down. So, united we stand, Divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. So that's the latest around the world and in Africa.